It's Mental Health Chat Monday, the new and improved version, honey. This is the series where we sit down with a brand new guest every single week and discuss their journey with mental health and mental wellness. Because here on Mental Health Chat Monday, our motto is turning mental illness into mental wellness. I am your host, DDare Bionic. Thank you so much for joining me and tuning in today. If you want to know more about me, all of my links are down below. Y'all already know how this goes. You've watched many of these episodes at this point. But that is not why we're here today. Today we are here with a phenomenally talented artist, writer, and someone that I met 5, 6, 10, 12 years ago? Really long time ago. I can't even
remember sometimes hardly. You've always been there.
It feels that way sometimes. Yeah. Shannon Geier is here with us today. Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Wonderful. How long has it been since we actually have seen each other outside of you coming to my job?
Yes, that has been years and years. And I come to your job to see you. I also like the food, which is a bonus. And
food is
one
really
of the few places I can get macarons. But you are the main reason that
well, thank you. So, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Obviously, we met doing theater.
We did. I saw you doing theater before I started doing theater. You were in a show called Am I Black Enough Yet?
Oh my God, yes, the infamous.
Yes, and I did not know you. And then I think it was a few months later, I think it was one of those 24-hour play festivals. It was outside the church. Uh-huh. And I just told you I really enjoyed you in that, and you were very kind about it. And after that, I have no idea. I don't know if it's when you auditioned to be in my show, Fat, or
I think so.
Maybe that was it, and we became, very fast, close friends.
Very fast, close friends. I'm pretty sure it was Fat, because when I read the script for that show, I forget how I even found out about it. I don't even know how I got to be like...
Well, I just threw out all over Facebook that I was putting the show together because in the beginning, in the end, I don't know that it's ended, but it's me. And, now I have a producing partner, Elaine, but now it's just the two of us, and we haven't done anything in quite a while, but it's always been, held together with duct tape and prayers. That's all we can do. But,
that's how my life is.
Yeah, but I do remember you doing... you doing a recorded scene, and your mom was the other character.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, so this is pre-pandemic.
Very pre-pandemic.
Very pre-pandemic.
Yes.
And I remember the video audition. I was I was really nervous about it because I had never done a video audition before.
That was 2017 is when we did Bad.
Yeah.
So it would have been 2016 when I saw you in the other shows.
Yeah. But Am I Black Enough Yet is how I got my man. A different friend is a mutual friend of Ronnie and I's, and she introduced us almost 4 years ago now. Aww. And now we live in this Halloween haven together.
It is beautiful.
Y'all see it sometimes in the background. You can obviously see we have Elvira and Spooky, my potions, brews, and elixirs.
Are you pro Kylie dressing up as Elvira or anti Kylie dressing up as Elvira?
I don't care for Kylie. I don't really see the point of her as a person.
Waste of flesh.
That was shady. However, I thought she looked stunning.
She did.
I thought she looked really good. I am not one to discredit somebody's whatever. Yeah. I love Halloween. Halloween is my time of year, clearly.
Yes.
But I was very impressed. She did good.
She went all out.
She did good, yes.
Definitely.
So I like to start these episodes with a very important question. Mm-hmm. Mental health check. How is your mental health today? How is 2023 treating you so far? We're a little over a month in.
Yeah.
A month and a week.
Yeah. I think mostly it's going pretty well. Each day I have to accept that I'm almost 53 years old, and my body is reminding me all the time that I'm 53 years old. And I was talking to you about having cortisone shots in my knees, and now my shin is starting to burn when I drive, and I'll pull my seatbelt out and I'll get a pain in the... This is what we do, kids in their 50s, as we do. How are you? Well, let me tell you. It's falling apart. But mentally, I'd say I'm mostly doing okay. As I was telling you, I have some new responsibilities at my work. Mm-hmm. and I am excited about them, and I want to do well, and I love being knowledgeable about things, but also I get a little panicked at not being knowledgeable about things, and that causes me to procrastinate because I get that instant sense of relief when I put it off, because that's future Shannon's problem. I know the consequences. I know all the bad things that are going to happen when I've done this. Again, almost 53 years old, but that 1 minute of future Shannon's problem, it just gets me every time. But I'd say I'm mostly doing pretty well.
Good. I love to hear that you're doing well. I also love to hear that I'm not the only one that procrastinates.
Yeah.
Not that I think it is a unique problem by any means, but it really, especially like in the workplace, I don't know. You seem to love your job. You love what you do. Yeah. If you work with me at the Blue Duck, pause or skip a couple seconds. I hate it.
Oh, no.
It's the worst. Yeah. And not because of where I work or who I work with. I love the people I work with. I love the place that I work. But it's that service industry thing where I'm like going through the cycle of not loving it. Right. I don't think I've ever really truly loved it. It's never been a passion of mine. I've never been like, yes, waiting tables. But you know, it's convenient, it's easy, and it works with my schedule. And I've been at this place for 6 years. But I'm really like going into work every day being like, all right, we got this.
Yeah. Well, I've been at my job for 16 years in April. And
congratulations.
Thank you. I enjoy it. Some days are better than others. I wouldn't say it's a passion. And, you know, I know people whose jobs are their passions. And while that's great, I've also seen how that can affect the rest of their life. Yeah. Excuse me. How everything's about that passion and they don't. So I tell my daughter, who's also in the food industry and also hates it, that you can find a passion and make that your life center. And if you're lucky enough to make a living at it, that's fine. Or you can find a job like I have. I don't work nights. I don't work weekends. I log off and then I go do whatever I want to do. So that's nice too. But I am kind of behind the scenes of helping people a little bit sometimes. So that's helpful too. You know, I don't hate my job, but it's not like I do get up every day because I work from home and will continue to work from home. That is very nice. That is super nice.
That part of it, I really wish I could wait tables from home. Just hit me like a
knock on the door. Hi, I need a sandwich and
okay, I'll get that in for you. We have tablets now at work. I think
you need to Instacart your job.
Yes, absolutely. They just need to tell me all they have to do is tell me we're replacing humans with robots, and I'll be like, I can voice act for the robots.
There you go.
Hello, welcome to.
Well, I think the robots can do that themselves. They need you to be the real voice. Like, welcome.
Oh, yeah. Hello. I'll give him the sensual voice. Hello.
Hello.
It puts the lotion on its skin.
Leave cross from sensual to creepy.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, no, wait. Backpedal. On the vein, I'll deviate a little bit from I really like the way these have been going. I'll deviate a little bit from my structure here and talk about a little bit about passion and procrastination and how those things can kind of affect your mental health, especially when it comes to the things you're passionate about.
Yes. If you speak to my production partner, Elaine, she will tell you that I typically we're still trying to figure out the future, but because Why Not Theater Company is the theater company that I started, and then she joined me as my production partner. And I typically, she will tell you, she's directed most of the plays, have the script done about a week after auditions. I'll usually get enough together to get her into the auditions, and that drives her up the wall, you know. Not that she's, you know, she can procrastinate, everyone can procrastinate, but she's like, I need something. We're going to have rehearsals. We're going to have people here. They have to have something to act out. So, and I don't know. You know, again, it's that whatever the endorphin or whatever lets go in your brain when you're like, okay, future Shannon's problem. I'm just going to, you know, I don't want to worry about it. And there's absolutely fear under all that procrastination, fear of it not being good enough, fear of it, you know, being wrong or people not accept, whatever it is. There's always fear under the procrastination. But again, I feel like I've been lucky enough in my job that if you're with Ascension, please hit pause right now.
Please skip.
That if I decide at 11 o'clock in the morning, I have a really good idea, and right now there's, I don't have any meetings, I can stop and just type out my whatever I'm thinking, and so that's definitely a plus. But yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything with theater and hardly anything with writing until I was in my 40s. I just, one day I'm just like, okay, I'm going to start writing. And then I started going to all the shows. And every time I go to a show, I get the program and I Facebook friend everybody. And that's probably another way we met. And it was just like, I know some people who write and they're trying to get it produced. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to wait around for somebody to tell me that I'm allowed to do this. So I started doing it. And for, I guess, 5 or 6 years, it was just amazing. And now I don't know, COVID hit and I'm not sure what the next step is, if it's, continuing to produce plays or if it's writing plays, trying to get someone else to produce them. I have it in my mind that I'm really interested in, kind of virtual meetings, and, people can jump on and read poetry, or they can, you can email them the script and they can, and a lot of people are kind of down on that. Oh, well, if you don't have the audience in front of you, then, and I can see that from a certain perspective, but I also think that, you can get somebody in California who has no other way to get their art out there, and you can stick them on a camera, and however, 10 people or 100 people can watch them. I think that's something that not enough people have continued to do as the pandemic has slightly wound down.
Yeah, I think virtual theater and performance is still really, really important. I know a lot of people who are, especially in I have recently become acquainted with a few drag queens who do shows, like they have like a monthly show or something at Crack Fox. And one of my good friends that I met doing film lives like in another country and was able to perform as a part of their show virtually. Yeah. And I was like, are you going to be in town? Like, what's going on? And then I saw that they would be here virtually. I was like, that's incredible. It is. It's a great way to get like you said, to get yourself out, to be on a stage, to get to know more people. Don't talk down on virtual.
Yeah. And I have started going back to some shows here and there, probably not like I used to, but, I'll be like, oh, here's a show, a local show, small theater, and I'm excited about it. And then like, oh, we're shutting down for a week because everybody got COVID. And it's like, well, COVID's still out there, and that doesn't happen a lot on virtual. I can sneeze all over my screen and nobody's sick. So, just, again, kind of also procrastinating a little bit about what to do next. I, not really 100% sure. And some days, again, that's a little bit of a relief. And some days it can be a little bit anxiety causing, because I'm like, was it seriously just that, just those 5 years and now move on to something else? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, it's scary coming out of, a time where we really couldn't produce anything if it wasn't virtual.
Right.
And for me, I have 2 scripts that I've been working on Talk about procrastination. Every time I think about sitting down to work on it, something else comes into my brain. And I kind of have that, I don't want to say opposite thing, but like, I have so many ideas all the time that I'm like, ooh, I can do all these things. And it's like, realistically, I cannot do all of these things.
Right.
But also I'm a Capricorn, so realistically, I can do all of these things. I just won't sleep. Or enjoy quality time with anybody. Sure. But the things will be done.
Yes, they will.
And there will be an endless stream of things.
Team Capricorn.
Yep. We get it. Capricorns get her done. So I had a question and I completely blanked on what it was. Talk to me about, so as a writer, writer to writer.
Yes.
I know that a lot of my mental illness has informed my writing, whether it's plays or music. Talk to me about how your mental illness has informed your writing.
Well, the first thing I wrote was a play called Fat. Fat has come through a couple of different versions, but it's
Beautiful
probably...
piece. Beautiful piece.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely
Thank you so
beautiful.
much. Thank you. It's all in who acts in your show.
You gotta have good words to act out.
That's true, but if you've got words and nobody to act them and nobody to direct them and no sets, then it's just it's a book, but that's a whole never mind. Anyway, so Fat was probably one of my most autobiographical plays. And it deals a lot with body image and people of larger size and society and families and how they deal with all that. Mm-hmm. That was very personal to me because I have an eating disorder. And I don't know, I probably had it my whole life. And I grew up around people who were always shaming me for my larger size, starting when I was like 5 years old, and just on and on. You know, society as a whole, people don't have a lot of acceptance. Most people don't have a lot of acceptance for people of larger size, the space they take up. Mm-hmm. And so that piece was very personal to me, and it was very interesting because in the mid-aughts, I guess, I joined a 12-step program and for compulsive overeaters. And I really just kind of threw my life into that. I was just doing everything. I was like leading retreats and, speaking to people, which I love to public speak. And I would run meetings and I would start meetings and, all of this. And so when I first produced Fat, I was probably 100 pounds lighter than I am now. I'd lost a lot of weight, and literally the world lined up to tell me how wonderful I was, how amazing. What are you doing? Oh my God, it's so perfect. And it was even more, important for all of them because I'd spent most of my life kind of yo-yoing, and I was usually of larger size. And so that's where I was in the midst of the 12-step program, in the midst of, being thin and the world's my oyster. That's where I was the first time I produced it. Mm-hmm. A few years later when I produced it, I had put on a significant amount of weight. I had left the 12-step program. And so it was a couple of little things changed, a couple little scenes were added, but it was really just looking at it so differently from my perspective. And but yeah, I think that's definitely getting that out there is something that is definitely important to me and is helpful to me. Yeah, I did a play about ethical non-monogamy. That's something that I experience and something that I enjoyed getting out there. I did a show about the dreamers and
oh yeah, I remember that one.
That was something that I kind of got stressed out about watching on the news and reading in the paper. So just things that I really want to put things out there that other people aren't really talking about, and I want to put it out in a way that people will talk about it, even if they're leaving. And, that's my favorite part of a play, going and watching it and leaving and saying, that was the best play I've ever seen. And the person next to me goes, wow, were you on drugs? That was the worst play. And talking, that is my favorite part of actually any show, is talking about it after and all the different things that it meant. And I that's what I wanted to put out there. And so, yeah, I think what I'm writing about is definitely helpful in terms of, something that might be bothering me, something that might be whatever, getting it out there, and hopefully other people are going to say, they don't have to say it was great, but, I have a really short story. Did you ever see the movie Tootsie?
Yes, okay. Love Tootsie.
Love Tootsie. So Dustin Hoffman lives with Bill Murray. Bill Murray is a playwright, okay? And this was all played for laughs back in 1979. He's talking to people at this party, and he's, Bill Murray, but he's like, I don't want 100 people to come to my play. I want 10 people who've just come in out of the worst rainstorm of their life to see my play. Because I don't want somebody to come up to me right after the play and say, I loved your play, I cried. I want somebody to come up to me 2 weeks later and say, I saw your play. What happened? And it's meant as a joke, and it's just stupid Bill Murray. But I'm like, yeah, that's exactly. I want somebody to come up to me. I had somebody at the first Fat. Some stranger came up to me sobbing and threw her arms around me. And then the next night she said, I had to bring my husband. And she did. And it was just, and those are really the things that really touch me and make me think that, maybe I'm throwing a little bit of good out in the world, hopefully.
Yeah, I relate to that so deeply because my whole point of being a creative person is educating, starting those conversations.
Right.
That's why I do this podcast. My Infinite Sadness was kind of like the talkbacks.
Show.
Thank you. The talkbacks after that show are the reason I wanted to do this, because I didn't know how I wanted to do it at the time, but I knew I wanted to do something to encourage the conversation on mental health.
Yeah.
Because we really just don't talk. And it's crazy from 2019 to now 2023 how much has changed in the conversation of mental health.
Yeah.
And I like to think I was a small part of
I
that.
was about to say, I think you're absolutely
I like to think I was a little part of that.
Absolutely.
But I want to play a role in ending the stigma and helping all of us heal, so that we all can get to a point where we can live together in harmony and peace and blah, 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 hippies, you know. But yeah.
That's exactly it. You know, I don't think any kind of congressional, legislative whatever is going to be, solved because I wrote a play about immigration. But if somebody leaves, I wrote a play with River Downey, wonderful artist, and she had given me some of her writings about her life dealing with sexual abuse, sexual assault, sexual trafficking, her own experiences. And I turned that into a play. So it was by both of us. And we were doing just like little pieces of it for, I don't know if it was for the theater crawl maybe. So it was just one or two scenes.
Coldest winter ever, right? Coldest winter ever? Is that what
it was?
Or it was cold something?
I should remember the names of it has the word cold in it. Cold winter, cold in winter.
But I remember, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I do remember, yeah.
And so, we're just doing a scene or two, and it's about a grown man and a grown woman, but they were in a relationship when she was 9 because her father basically gave her to this man.
Wow.
And the whole thing around that. And a woman in her 70s walked out. She'd only seen 2 or 3 scenes and it was over, and she walked out and she goes, "That was really good." That doesn't really happen though, does it? I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, it actually does. This is all based on," and she's like, "Wow. Okay." And right there, that's it. That's one person. She may not have walked away going, "I have to go get involved and then help," but she walked away knowing more than she knew when she came in. And that's something that's really important to me.
Yeah, I had something very similar happen at the Fringe Festival with My Infinite Sadness. I had a friend who came to see it, who was also performing in the festival, and had a really long conversation afterwards about unaliving or suicide and everything like that. And it brought a different understanding as to why it happened to someone close to her. And I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That's the conversation I want to have, because it's...
I saw your play. What happened?
What happened?
Love you, Bill.
Well, let me tell you. So if you are comfortable sharing, talk to me a little bit about
sharing is caring.
Any diagnoses you may have received, or and how those diagnoses have kind of affected the way you go about the world and existence and relationships and such.
Well, I think I probably had binge eating disorder most of my life. And I was, I went still in the 12-step program, which, I think that 12 steps is good for many people. I think that for me, it ended up not being a good thing. But I was so ingrained in that. I mean, I gave 10 to 12 years of my life to that 12-step program. So when I thought maybe I should go into like a treatment center, outpatient treatment center for eating disorders. And it didn't last very long. I wasn't really ready to hear it, what they had to tell me. And they were trying to explain to me that, binge eating disorder is an eating disorder, but food is not an addiction like alcohol and drugs, is what they were trying to tell me. And I believe that now. For myself personally, I'm, whatever anyone else believes, I completely respect that. But at the time, I'm like, yeah, no, you don't get it. You're completely wrong. And so I left that. And then I had a therapist, therapist I'd had for a while, and I was just beside myself, mainly because I was becoming a larger size again. And that time at 160 pounds where everyone was lining up to tell me how wonderful I was, I truly believed that my self-worth had risen, my, whatever, in society and in my family and in everything. It just had gone up, and now it was all gone again, and I had thrown it away and all that. And he just said to me, maybe you're good enough just the way you are. And it just kind of turned everything around, because there weren't a lot of people saying that to me. And so then I ended up with a therapist and a registered dietitian and a psychiatrist who were all certified in eating disorders. By the way, anybody can call themselves a nutritionist in the world. I can call myself one. Registered dietitians have the science. I just want to throw that out there. They're the ones who've done the work.
I would have never known.
Yep.
I'm a nutritionist, y'all.
There you go.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Strike that from the record, please.
Yeah, exactly. So just working with these three amazing women and really opening myself up to the fact that I did have an eating disorder, and that, that's what I was dealing with, not my weakness, not my lack of self-control, not anything else. And so the therapist told me to base my health and my goals on three things: healthy metabolic function, how's your blood work, body acceptance, and joyful movement. And that's it. Doesn't matter the number on the scale. I don't own a scale, and I never thought I would own a scale, but I don't own a scale. I went through the period when I was 160 pounds. I was vegan. Okay, fine. I'm still a vegetarian, but I was vegan. Okay, whatever. I wasn't eating any kind of sugar, any kind of bread, nothing white. And that's when I found out about, orthorexia, which is an eating disorder where you eat nothing but clean food. You're completely obsessed with clean food. So I didn't realize I had that, and then that blew up and became the binge eating disorder. So I would say that's probably my my diagnosis is the binge eating disorder. And then, offshoots of that are some depression, and then offshoots of that or whatever. I know on my doctor's report, it says that I've got depression and ADHD, because the medicines I take for my binge eating disorder, they also help with that. So that's kind of one of my formal diagnoses, but I think it all really comes out of the binge eating disorder part of it.
How do you think, or how do you feel, how do you see that, life prior to the diagnosis I'm mixing my words up. How do you feel or see that life after the diagnosis has changed as to who you were before the diagnosis?
Well, I am not going to say, oh my God, everything's perfect, because it's not, but just being able to look myself in the mirror, not being... I was literally disgusted with myself. I'd put on 20 pounds since I was 160. Oh my God, what a huge piece of shit. And you're just, you're disgusting, and you need to get back in the 12-step program. And just moving beyond that and saying, because they don't really talk about eating disorders in the 12-step program that I was in, but finding out that, that it's all okay, and I really want to ask people who say something about it, I'm a Toastmaster, so I love public speaking. So I have a whole speech where I hold up a picture of myself at 160 and now. And usually it's virtual, so I say, if I was standing up in front of you and said, which of these women is smarter, funnier, sexier, more creative, a better mother, a better partner, a better employee? And, nobody's going to say, obviously, the skinnier one's better. Nobody's going to say that,
right.
But I know they're thinking it.
But they're thinking it.
You're right, exactly. Because if I stand up, and it's still on Facebook, social media, if I stand up in front of a group and say, what if I told you over the last year I've lost 100 pounds? People go batshit crazy. Oh my God, they don't even know me. But if I stand up and say, I've gained 100 pounds, nobody's clapping. They're all going, are we supposed to do? Oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? This is so awkward. Because that's the way it is. Thin is good and fat is bad. It's been like that forever. It's been like that since I was born. And it's still like that. They knew 75 to 100 years ago that diets don't work.
Yeah.
Science has known that. Doctors, they have a study that says doctors spend 60% less time with patients of larger size than they do with their thin patients. And they order fewer metabolic tests. That's just the way that it is, because I am not a woman of larger size. I'm not a woman with an eating disorder. I am fat. I am lazy. I'm not healthy, I'm not clean, I'm not, there's probably some kind of smell coming. It's just over and over again. And I put this in the play Fat, you probably may remember, because this happened to me. I'm walking down a hallway, and there's a large woman in front of me, don't know her, and a man and his 8-year-old son walked by her. And as they walked by me, he goes, they need to hide, he said to his son, they need to widen the hallways for people like her. And they both started laughing.
Oh, I remember that line.
And I hope she didn't hear that. But, what he told that 8-year-old boy was, fat people are funny. We're getting a little better as a society, a little better, depending on the day, about the jokes and the little jabs about sexual orientation and race and ethnicity. But you look at Friends, you look at Modern Family, you show up to a comedy club, fat people, ha ha ha, oh my God, fat people, ha ha ha. And it just doesn't stop. And
I remember I shared something, and this was either right before Fat, like right before auditions or right before I got cast. I don't remember, but I shared something, and in my mind, it was innocent, and it wasn't even necessarily taking a dig at fat people. But you commented on it, and I don't remember what the comment was. I don't even remember what the post was. But I was like, huh. I can see how that would be offensive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And like all it takes is one person to...
It does. It does, right. Yeah. And there are memes and there are funny things. So funny because, I've got a fat girl appetite and I've got a thin girl wallet or whatever, something like that. Just all that stuff. And then, I think probably the only back and forth attacked evil thing I got into on Facebook was with some guy who was a comedian and, wanted to go on about it. Did you watch Shrill with Lindy West?
I never watched it, but it has been suggested to me.
The book is great, and the TV show's great. So she is a woman of larger size, and she's smart, she's funny, and she's beautiful. That's the thing is I look at women, I look at Lizzo, I look at Lindy West, I see women who are larger than me, and I go, wow, you are stunning. And I still have a little trouble saying that to myself, just a little bit. But her boss would go on and on to her about, or to his company, about how the heavier people were doing stuff that were causing insurance problems and maybe they should do this and that and all this offensive stuff. Her boss was Dan Savage. It gets better. Somebody who has done so much to change the world, sex positive, LGBTQ. The man is amazing. And he was abusive to his employees who were of larger size. So, that right there, I'm just like, okay.
It's, and I don't think we talk enough about how eating disorders can be categorized with mental illness. It's not something that people just go out and just like, I'm going to binge eat today and that's just what I'm going to do and that's just who I am.
Right.
I'm just quirky like that. Like, no, it's truly something, and I can't speak on it because I can't relate, or not that I can't relate, but I don't have that. But I can understand it's kind of similar in a way to kind of like withholding yourself from joy, like as a thing that people do with depression. Like you feel like you have let yourself and everybody around you down, so you just you don't get to have any joy.
No.
Oof.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I took away from the outpatient facility I was in for eating disorders was comparison is the thief of joy. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly it. As if I'm looking around at other people, and I was raised in the 70s and the 80s by, my mother was only 19 when I was born and she looked like a model. She was just so glamorous. And I was raised that you put makeup on and that you roll your hair and that you go out in high heels and all of this. And obviously I'm not. And that was something else. When, COVID hit and I wasn't going into an office, and even before that, I gave away all my heels. I wear a size 12. Desiree declined. She's got all my heels. Though I wear tennis shoes because I've got bad knees, and every once in a while I put some makeup on, but I don't usually, and I just throw my hair up, and I'm like, this is okay. I've
You're still stunning and gorgeous.
Oh my God, thank you.
Still stunning and gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes, I love hearing that. You know, it is a lot harder for us to compliment ourselves than it is to compliment other people, especially when you've kind of beaten yourself up your whole entire life.
Right. And I don't understand, like, my daughter is 22 and stunningly gorgeous, and she's almost 5'9", and she weighs like 125 pounds, and I've spent her entire life telling her that she's smart and she's funny and she's clever and she's beautiful, and she's got such low self-esteem, and I don't know where that came from. You know, maybe Disney, maybe school, maybe on the streets and the magazines, but you know, I didn't have anybody like that, you know, really pushing me to accept me for me. And so pushing her to accept her for her, and it's still coming out with the low self-esteem and the self-hatred and all that. I'm just like, I did the best that I could, and that's kind of all I could do. So.
And, you know, I have similar conversations with my mom. My mom did absolutely nothing to even... to make me depressed, to contribute to my depression, at all. If anything, I look back on that time when I was in like the very depths of my depression, and I see her as a shining light. And still to this day, you know, I'm 30 years old now. I'm in a much happier place. She still sometimes is like, "Are you sure I was a good mom? Are you sure I don't understand. I don't know how I was like, Mom, First of all, I was a teenager, so we're good at hiding things. As much as parents want to be like, I know everything. Okay, girl.
Does your mom suffer from depression at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
See, that's what I found hardest, was because I didn't feel like I suffered with just straight on depression. I had some depressive moments with my eating disorder and just what I think, you know, other people may have, but not having actual depression, it made it hard to understand kind of what my daughter was going through. Just stop being sad. Yeah. What's the problem? You know, why are you upset? There's got to be a reason. When I'm sad, there's almost always a reason. Specifically, somebody said something happened. I thought of an old memory, and I had to come to the point, it's like, nothing happened. No. Nothing happened.
Sometimes you just
hey, you were fine last night, and this morning I'm not. So that was something that I had to get used to and really come to accept for
and it was
my daughter.
My mom, having suffered with it, was definitely a tool that I used growing up, because she understood, and I felt like I could talk to her about anything. Once I finally came out that I was, you know, having these suicidal thoughts, and I was all of that. Once we finally had the real heart-to-heart conversation, and she was like, "Look." This is this and this is that, and I was like, oh, okay, you do get it, like, because she never said I pretended I never was sad. I wasn't sad around her. I was always happy and having a good time, and honestly, I probably was genuinely happy around my mom, but there was not really a time. There was not really a time until I was like 25 where I was like, this is the real smile. I like it. So, I want to kind of talk a little bit more about that. I'm not a parent. I have a bajillion nieces and nephews. You know this. I love them all dearly.
And he doesn't buy them presents anymore.
I don't. Okay, I will tell the story. So, my mom took my sister's youngest daughter. She just turned 6 in November. Took her out for a girls' day. They got their nails done, and they wanted me to be involved. I did not get my nails done, obviously. My nail tech, my appointment is next week, and I'm like hiding my hands in my pockets until.
Please feel better about yours.
No, because look, this one's gone. This one's coming off. This one's chipped.
It's eclectic.
It's a mess, is what it is. But they, my sister's oldest will be 15 in like a couple days here. A couple days from recording, not from posting this episode. And she sent a screenshot in a group message with like myself, my sister, and my mom. And like, it's like, these are all the things that I want for my birthday. And I'm like, girl, Unless you're my man or my mama. You're not getting a gift from me. I'm going to put my name on somebody else's gift. It's from Uncle and Mama.
There you
That's
go.
exactly what I did. I said, Mom, put my name on your gifts. It's from both of
That's
us.
amazing.
And she was like, you're not going to get nothing. No, ma'am. Put my name on that gift. Put it. Uncle.
I think you're setting an expectation, though. She's going to think it's from you, and then next year she's going to want more from you.
Nope. And then if she comes asking next year, I'll be like, oh no, I just had a...
You know what? You don't pay taxes or insurance. Get out of my pay.
Yeah, leave me alone. But I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about, I guess, parenting someone who has depression. How has that affected your mental wellness?
Well, I feel like talk about somebody who's not here. My ex-husband, her father, I feel like he had a lot of mental issues. Just, and that's not just me being bitter or bitchy, but he did struggle a lot with mental illness. And like I said, I was raised in the 70s and the 80s, and I watched all the TV shows and the movies and the Disney movies and all that. So when someone you love has problems, then you help them fix them, and you help them fix themselves, and you make them better, and you never leave them, and you stand beside them and support them. And I tried that. I tried all of that. And I had really hoped that he and I would kind of balance out as far as parenting, as far as I don't really suffer from depression. He does. He's got a lot of good qualities, but,
I have this, not philosophy, but, and I know a lot of people who are both mentally unwell and mentally well, who, the motto is you can't use your mental illness as a reason to abuse me. And you said that while you were talking, and that stuck out to me. That's so important. As mentally ill people, I'm talking to us, just because you have this affliction doesn't mean you can take it out on somebody else. No. And I know a lot of the times it's not trying to take it out on that other person, but the best apology is change behavior.
Right. And that can be really hard for someone who doesn't normally have depression or anxiety. Okay, you're being verbally or mentally abusive. How much are you in control of your behavior?
Yes.
And then I'm like, oh, well, he's going through an episode. They're going through an episode, so they're not responsible for this. And then they come out of it. And I was really, with my first marriage, I was really in an abusive cycle, I mean, I'm crying, I'm hysterically sobbing because I'm getting treated badly, and then he's better, and I'm so sorry, and that will never happen again, and I'll go see a therapist. Okay, great. And then a little something happens. Well, nobody's perfect. You gotta, and then it would start all over, and it really was a cycle because you don't know. And I remember telling a therapist, I said, he does not act like this at work, around his sister, who he's very concerned what she thinks of him, around his friends. None of this behavior comes up out there. It's just with me. And the therapist said, well, that's not okay, but also can you imagine how much he's struggling to keep it together in those outside social situations, which I get, but at the same time, then it's like... Why
are you loosening the reins with just me?
Exactly. I feel like I should be able to be myself around you because I love you and because this is my home. And I'm like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, and, but that's... Abuse is not cute.
Right, and it's entirely impossible to know, okay, are you in some kind of state where you don't really have control over this, or are you manipulating me? And if I held a gun to your head, you would never admit you're manipulating me, and of course not. So it is extremely difficult to... It's super easy to set a boundary.
Yeah.
Living up to that boundary and continuing it is really, really hard.
Especially with someone you love. But also you have to kind of be, I guess, discerning in is this episode that's happening something that is harming me directly and intentionally, even if it's an episode, even if this is the mental illness that is in control, is this intentionally directed towards me? Or is this person being vulnerable with me and letting me into their world? Because I feel like a lot of times we get kind of mixed up on that difference when it comes to dealing with someone who has mental illness. if somebody is letting their walls down and being vulnerable and it's hurtful and you just feel like, I don't know what to do, that's completely different than them being like,
yes, that is, yeah,
I hate you. Different. Yeah. You're the worst.
Right.
Don't. Yeah, like
you're fat. Oh, I got that a lot too.
Oh my God.
Like, it's fine. But yeah, that is definitely, and again, it's one of those societal things. I don't think anybody's brought up, except my daughter, who I've tried to tell her, you look out for you. Mm-hmm. That's so selfish. That's so hurtful. You got married for better or worse. You did, you gave birth to this person. You have to be there all day, every day, forever, and support them. And when you have to watch out for yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to watch out. And it takes a long time to figure that out. I don't expect my 22-year-old daughter to know all that. I'm also saying you can fight with someone you love, but you really have to step back and say, are they just angry about their side of the argument, or are they being cruel while they're arguing? Mm-hmm. And you have to look at these things. Yeah. And I had to get to a point myself where I'm just like, this is not serving me. This is not the life I want. This is hurtful, and it's very triggering, and I can't. And it took me so many years to do that, and so many cycles of the abuse, and so many everything. But it was the hardest thing I ever did, and it was the best thing I ever did for myself, was leaving my first marriage. Yeah. Yeah. And my ex-husband, who again, he's got some good qualities, that was 14 years ago. He has never gotten remarried. He's had one brief relationship, and I don't even talk to him anymore because my daughter, I don't need to be in contact with him, but he's still pissed that I left him. And if you walked up to him, he'd go, I'm not sure what happened there. She just left all. I'm like, okay. No. But again, that's his perception, that's his reality, and that's not my business. So.
Yes. So I want to jump to a quick question about medication. Mm-hmm. Feel free to talk about how medication has affected your life and how it has helped you or harmed you or whatever.
Well, when I started seeing a psychiatrist who was kind of dealing with the medication, they put me on a medication that was, she said they'd had some good results. Can't remember the name of it. Some people with binge eating disorder had some good luck on this. Mm-hmm. So I started taking it. Can't remember what it was called. And it was supposed to kind of help curb some of the thoughts and the binge eating disorder and all that. I had zero thoughts or feelings about any kind of food whatsoever. Typically, if you walked up and said, what do you want to do for dinner? I don't know, maybe this, maybe that. I'd sit there and I'd go, I have no idea. I can't even come up with a thought, And I wasn't starving myself. I was still eating, but it just did something to my whole body. So then they changed that and they put me on, I can't remember, Focalin? Is that an antidepressant, maybe? I don't know. The names on the bottles are sertraline and dexmethylphenidate. No long name. One of them's for ADD, and one of them is for depression. Mm-hmm. And together, those have really helped me with my binge eating disorder. And also, I feel like the one for ADD, I really do feel like that's helped me with my focus. Yeah. So I'm... I definitely feel like that. So, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't had any kind of long string of depressions. I would go through a short period of time where everything would be bothering me and I'd just be crying. And that hasn't happened a lot either. So I feel like those two together were to help with the binge eating disorder, but they're helping a little bit in the other stuff, just kind of even me out. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the only two related to my mental health. I can tell you about my anti-inflammatory and about all my old people vitamins, but nobody wants to hear that.
So, here on Mental Health Chat Monday, like I said in the opening, we have a motto, a mantra. Mm-hmm. It's turning mental illness into mental wellness. Mm-hmm. What does mental wellness look like to you?
Mental wellness looks like to me a balance. This is my tattoo. It's this Celtic sign for balance. and this is my tattoo. It's a pause sign. So it could also be equal, but it's a pause sign. Mm-hmm. So I have to pause and I need to make sure that I'm balancing out everything else with my own mental health, physical health, everything. I have to look out for myself. And again, like I said before, that's selfish, that's mean, that's terrible. I'm such a people pleaser. I was raised from the time I was little to take care of people, to put their needs before my needs. And if I didn't, it was selfish, it was wrong. And that went well into my adulthood. And now I find myself surrounded by people who accept me the way that I am, who love me the way that I am, and who understand that I have to look out for myself, and that my feelings, nobody can affect my feelings but me, without my permission or something like that.
Yeah.
I think I read that in the Effective People book or whatever, Highly Effective People, whatever it was. And I was probably in my 20s, and I think I had just got married, and said, other people aren't responsible for your feelings. And I'm like, well, sure, if a stranger says something, I don't care. But if somebody I love says, hey, you're an idiot, you're a piece of shit, that's going to affect me. And now I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Not actually.
If you want to think that, you can. I'm not sure I want to hang around you if you're going to talk to me like that.
Yeah.
And that's all just so different than how the first, probably 3/4 of my life to this point went. It really is about looking out for myself, taking care of myself, and knowing that, the big cliche, you can't put somebody else's mask on if your own mask isn't on the airplane. But I'm no good to anybody. I thought I was. I thought I was so busy and so whatever. But, now that I'm really putting myself first, then I feel like I'm so much better at parenting and being a romantic partner and being a life partner and being an employee. It's really been, it's not selfish and it's not wrong to put yourself first.
I have a saying, be selfish. And I say that to everybody. Tell everybody this: be selfish, especially in your 20s. All the time, be selfish, but especially in your 20s, because that is the time. It's weird that I can say this now that I'm in my 30s. Now that I'm
for the last 6.5 hours.
Right. Now that I'm like not even a full month into my 30s. No, but I encourage everyone around me to put themselves first. It is so important. I think Nick said in her episode, if I don't put myself first, there will be no self left. And that hit me so hard because it's very true. You have to.
Right.
You have to.
Right.
And I think we need to take the negative stigma behind the word selfish.
Yep.
Now, there are moments when you can be selfish and it is negative, but we're not going to get into that.
No, we're not.
When it comes to your mental health and your boundaries, you know what you did or didn't do. When it comes to your mental health and your boundaries, be selfish. Be selfish. Put yourself first, always and forever.
Be selfish. Be selfish. Like
BESELFISH. Be selfish. My sister was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And do I remember the question off the top of my head, or do I? Yes. Last question.
Okay.
Leave us with, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. Leave us with a piece of advice for allies. How can they be in our corner? How can they better support us?
Okay. Remember, it's not about you.
Ooh.
I would say, remember, it's not about you. Again, the allies need to keep themselves, the allies need to keep themselves healthy, and they need to, get out of situations that might be abusive, but, don't take stuff personally, and that's super hard. It's super hard. If somebody's in the middle of an episode and they're screaming obscenities and screaming terrible things at you, and the people who love you know how to push those buttons more than anybody, it's super hard to say, oh, I'm not taking that personally. Just do your best to not take it personally. Do your best to, take care of yourself and, try to meet someone where they're at. Hey, you've been to the therapist for 2 weeks. Why aren't you all better? You've been on that medication for 6 hours. Why are you still crying?
What's happening?
Yeah, I would say definitely, again, take care of yourself, but yeah, meet somebody where they are and And don't take it personally because it's not about you.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I try to take little pieces from what the guests say to name the episode.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. I think that encompasses what this episode is about in a very powerful way.
Oh, well, thank you.
Shannon, I love you.
I love
Moldy
you.
hearts forever.
You're the only person who ever sends me green hearts, and I'm like, because I'm Irish, and because I used to have red hair. No, they're moldy. That's okay. I still love you.
It's because they've been around for so long. The
Yes,
love
they
is
have.
so
We
deep.
don't even remember.
We don't
they
even
became,
remember.
but yes, you are definitely. I think it's a great podcast and a great idea, and I think you are doing so much for the world as a whole, and I hope you keep doing that forever.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of Mental Health Chat Monday. I will be back next week with a brand new episode and a brand new guest. If you want to know more about me, you can follow me on all the social media at DDare Bionic. I'm linked down below. You already know this. DDare Bionic on everything. It's called branding.
Amazing.
Shannon, is there anything you want to plug before I fully sign this off?
Right now there's not a whole lot to plug. I'll accept any good thoughts as I continue to think about my next step. But other than that, I'm just sort of being where I'm at, and we'll see what happens.
Heard that. Well, we will see what happens. I really do hope, because when it comes back, just saying, I've been looking for a show to get me back on stage. And with all that being said, thank you all for tuning in. I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.